math scholars.
What's up, math scholars? We're doing a 10-1, 10-2 study guide video. We've had a lot of people in and out at AP tests, so hopefully you're all catching yourselves up with the lessons and the videos, and you can maybe attend a study party if you're feeling a little overwhelmed on this material. So who's excited about partying it up with Mrs. Harp after school?
Woo! Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
I'll be
All right.
there.
I want to give some tickets away on this one, so help me out. Raise your hand if you can tell me what A and B are. Connor.
A is 1 and B is 2 pi.
So any questions for Connor on how he got that? All right, go ahead all by yourself and attempt to get the amplitude and period. I don't want to give every answer away today. So try to answer the amplitude and period question all by yourself. And then look up when you're ready to check, because I'll write it up here. So how did that go? Did you get that the amplitude was 1? That's the A value. And did you get that your period is 1? Because you do 2 pi divided by 2 pi. So we're using the formula on the far left, because this is the sine and cosine. Period. Okay, so here's how I'm going to handle my period. I'm going to go out 4 hash marks. If on your quiz they don't give you enough hash marks, just draw some in, because there is one. I was making my answer key that just don't give you enough hash marks. So draw them in, no big deal. So we have 4 hash marks out. That's going to be your period. So that's going to be your 1. Cut it in half for the second hash mark. 1/2. Cut it in half again for the first hash mark. And then you have to triple this number, because if you're at the first hash mark headed to the third, that would involve tripling. So 3 over 4. Oh, yeah, 3 over 4. Okay. All right, this is something you would need to memorize, but if you're ever in a pinch and you just can't remember, you do have a graphing calculator on your desk. So if you forget, oh my gosh, I forget what a cosine graph would look like, just type this in. It would work. 2 cosine 2 pi x. Now it's going to give you a shape, at least. It's not going to give you how to label all your hash marks, but it'll at least give you a shape. So a cosine graph will start high and end high and look like a cereal bowl in the middle. Now Xavier's, I just typed it in, it looks like a bunch of squiggles. Xavier would probably want to zoom in once, to be able to see that a little bit better. So zoom in, enter, and then Xavier's looking at something that could definitely remind him, oh my gosh, this graph is starting up high, up at 2, or sorry, up at 1, and going on. That doesn't look like it's starting at 2. That's a mystery. Oh, I accidentally put a 2 out front. That would answer now. There you go. It's starting at 1. Bam. Okay, so we're going to start at 1. Start at 1. End at 1, 4 hash marks away, and dip down to -1 in the center, and then come back up through 0 and end it. So it kind of looks like a cereal bowl. Okay? My drawing look all right? I'm going to have to save this for the internet, so I want it to look kind of nice and neat. What do we think the domain is? Where can the graph travel, left and right? Connor? Good. And the range is up and down, so just a -1 through 1. Okay. All right, number 2. Let's give a ticket away for somebody that knows A and B. Taylor. Good. Now go ahead, guys, do what you did in the last one and try to find the amplitude and period all by yourself. Let's see how it goes. You can do it. Take over. So on this one, you did actually have to remember how to divide by a fraction. So dividing by 1/4 is the same thing as multiplying by 4 over 1. So it looks like our period is 8 pi. We're going to go out 4 hash marks and label this guy our 8 pi. I'll let you go ahead and label the rest of the hash marks yourself. See if you can figure out what those hash marks are. And then look up if you're ready, when you're ready to check. Yes, the 4th hash mark out would be the end of your period. So 8 pi. marks. Did you get 2 pi, 4 pi, and 6 pi for the other 3 hash marks? Do you have questions on how to get those?
You did that like 8 divided by 2 divided by 2 times 3.
Correct. It's just the easiest way I've come across to doing it. Yeah.
Is the amplitude
The amplitude absolutely is A. So this is one where I was talking about I did not give you enough hash marks. This is a sine graph that will have a mountain peak up at 3. Oops, Harp only gave me 2 hash marks. Not a problem. Draw in a third hash mark because we're going to need to go down to -3 and up to +3. Okay. Great. So it's a sine graph. If you forget what it looks like, you could type it in the calculator, but it starts at 0, goes up to the top of the mountain by the first hash mark. That would be up at 3. Back to 0 by the second hash mark. Down to -3 by the third hash mark, and back to 0 by the last hash mark. And you connect it with a smooth, nice looking sine wave. Now you really have to read the questions carefully because I changed the questions on every problem. This question is not domain and range. This question is x-intercepts and y-intercept. Huh. So for one ticket, who knows the x-intercepts? Marcella. And I'd go with 0 as well. So 0, 4 pi, 8 pi, and onward. So we'll just do ... for that. 0, 4 pi, and 8 pi. ... And while I'm talking to Marcella, why don't you give me the y-intercept too? Yep. It's just this one little dot right here. That's the only place it touches the y-axis. So good enough on number 2? All right, we do have a student volunteer for A and B. Go for it.
Oh, it's 3 and B is 2 pi.
Perfect. So now, hey, stop and pause your life a second here. We have arrived at a tangent graph. We are using different formulas on the formula board. So don't get your period the same way you've been getting your period all day. Do a different period formula. So our period formula for tangent graphs is pi over b. So what is pi over 2 pi? 1/2. The pi's go away. There's an invisible 1 right here. The pi's go away. So it's just 1/2. The period is 1/2. I might have to pull this down. I'm afraid my board's not lined up in the corner very well. Now here's how tangent graphs work. They kind of hug the origin a little bit more. Their asymptotes are going to be from this hash mark to this hash mark. So those are my 2 asymptotes. To figure out what your asymptotes are, you really have to think about what the period is and what that means. So let me erase this to give myself some space. What a period means is how far it is of one cycle. And one cycle would go from one asymptote to the other. So if one period is 1/2, how far is it from the origin out to this asymptote? Half of 1/2, right, so 1/4. So your first asymptote is at positive 1/4. Where's your second asymptote going to be? Yep, it's a reflection image, so negative 1/4. It's not writing good. We might have to pause and line this board up. Okay, a halfway point's exactly what you'd think it would be. It's halfway out to the asymptote, 1/8. Now a halfway point is not just a hash mark, it's an actual point. So it's 1/8 comma something and negative 1/8 comma something. If you don't know what that something is, look on my formula board. That is an A that's going to be in your second half year coordinate. So Jake originally told us that A was 3. I just erased it. So pos 1/8 comma 3 is our first halfway point. Negative 1/8 negative 3 is our second halfway point. And then you always have a point at 0, 0, because tangent of 0 is 0. Always true. Whoop, and you draw your nice, smooth tangent curve. Oh, yay, we're at a cosine graph again. It looks like we're going to be translating now. Ooh. One ticket if you can tell me A and B. Sam?
A is 1 and B is also 1.
Yeah, it's a little tricky. The B would live in front of the parentheses, so it's also a 1. And the A lives out front, so it's invisible, so it's also a 1. Everybody go down A and B. Go ahead and find the amplitude and period all by yourself. We're back to using the cosine period formula, by the way. 2 pi over b. Raise your hand if you just got the amplitude and period correct. I want to see how many scholars you got. Well, that's good. At least You got 2 things correct, so no big problem. All right, you're going to take your 4 hash marks. Now, I kind of like to think ahead a little bit. Let's think ahead a little bit. Is there some sort of shift happening on this graph? What type of shift is happening on this graph? It's a pi shift. This is our shift. But is that left or right or up or down?
Right.
It's right pi. Very good. So I'm kind of thinking ahead. I am going to have to shift this to the right pi units. I'm going to maybe probably have to add on some hash marks in this direction. Just keep in mind where we're headed with our life. And there's no vertical shift, so I'm going to just go non-vertical shift. We're still going to label our period like we always have. 4 hash marks to the right would be your 2 pi. Cut it in half. Cut it in half again. And then triple it. So how are we doing on those 4 labels? And my instructions on the quiz say label and make all hash marks. So you sometimes need to make your own if they're not existing there for you. And that's going to happen on this problem. We'll have to make some hash marks ourselves. So let's talk about that right shift. A right pi shift would be how many hash marks? I'm going to shift my whole entire graph right pi units. How many hash marks would that be? 2. See how pi is right here? And that's 2 hash marks? Just kind of keep in mind we'll be going 2 hash marks right. We're going to make our preliminary graph in light pencil because we will be shifting it. So let's make our preliminary cosine graph. The preliminary cosine graph would start up at its maximum point, up at the top of this variable at 1. And then at the first hash mark it's at 0. The second hash mark it's at its minimum point, -1. Then it starts rising back again to getting to its maximum at the end. So this is really light pencil. In fact, I'm encouraging you to use a highlighter tomorrow to highlight your final answers. That's what I did when I made my answer key. My answer key that mysteriously went missing off my desk. All right, we get to move everything to the right 2 hash marks. So it's up to you if you want to label what these hash marks would be. This one would definitely be 3 pi, but this would be like 2.5 pi. I don't know what 2.5 is in decimal. Pi over 2. 2.5 pi, 5 pi over 2. But you don't, I'm not going to force you to label those hash marks when you go to the right. So every single dot gets moved 2 to the right, and then you just draw your final graph and highlight it. So there's that dot. There would be that dot. I'm sliding everybody 2 to the right. That dot, this dot, and this dot. Now what I think is awkward is seeing a period just starting in the middle of nowhere and not really showing what the y-intercept is. So I'm encouraging people to just kind of continue your curve just to kind of show where it would hit the y-axis. So it would hit down here. Okay. Does that make sense? And you can highlight that. My period was starting here, which was super awkward because it's not on the y-axis. So I just kind of continued the pattern that was developing and kind of went like that. So I can show my y-axis. You don't see it? Hello, everyone. We're on the back side now. It's starting to get a little bit funner, harder, more fun, whatever. More fun. We teach English in here. A308. 1 ticket if you can tell me A and B. Let's go with Ryan.
Put my hand down. What the heck?
Oh, you put your hand down.
Wait.
Let's go with Sam. His hand was up.
3 is A and pi is B.
Good. Now what's that 2, Sam? Sam, I have no idea what the 2 is. Help me out.
The 2 is isn't it the horizontal shift?
Nope.
Vertical shift.
Vertical shift. Let me put something on the board that I'm not going to have up on the board tomorrow. And I'll actually put it on the smart board so the people on the internet can see it. So I am not going to have this on the board tomorrow because I want you to know it. But basically your A value is always out front. Your B value is always in front of the parentheses. This number right here is always your left-right shift. And the minus sign is part of the formula, so it's opposite of what you would expect. But then this number at the end is always your up-down shift. So that's why that 2 was my up-down shift. Get that? So that's something you, yeah, I'll leave it up. You need to put it on your study guide and study it, but I'm not providing it to you. Okay? But I feel like we're at the part of the year where you should know it by now. Okay. We had our A and our B. We were in the middle of this problem. We took a little break. That meant our amplitude was 3. And our period, we'll use our period formula for sine and cosine, which is 2 pi over b. So it looks like it's going to be a 2. We had already talked about the vertical shift being 2, but there is no horizontal shift because there's nobody in parentheses. So go ahead and label your 4 hash marks all by yourself. Let's see how you do. You have 4 hash marks to label. What are you going to do? Riley?
Why is there no horizontal shift?
Because there's no one in the parentheses. Horizontal shift would always live in the parentheses with X. Can I draw the parentheses? There are no parentheses.
So
You want me to show you one that would have parentheses?
yeah.
No, we just did one.
Oh, there isn't one. Oh, bam! Number 8. That would be my horizontal shift. That would be my vertical shift. So it would be a left pi over 2 and an up 1.
So would the B just be 1 and then 1?
The B would just be 1 in number 8, yeah. So we'll get to number 8 shortly if we ever finish number 5.
That's great.
Alright, so we're going to go out 4 hash marks and label that our period, 2. Cut it in half, triple it. Remember what a sine graph looks like? Starts at 0, goes up the mountain first. The mountain would be 3 units tall. That's the amplitude. Goes down in the valley next. That'd be down at -3. Back to 0. I'm drawing it really lightly in pencil, because we have a shift to perform. What was our shift?
We're up.
No!
Oh, it's up.
Up 2! Up 2. So move this little blue dot up 2. Move this little blue dot up 2. So he's up at 5 now because he was at 3. 3, 4, 5. Okay. Move this dot up 2. He was at 0, so he's now at 2. This guy was at -3, so now he's at -1. And this guy was at 0, so now he's up at 2. Everybody went up 2. So my pink line, I would want to highlight or really make stand out. The pink line is what your final answer is. And you don't want to miss a dot like I did. That's my smartboard just being bad. You don't want to miss your dots. There we go. All right, we're on number 6. We basically have to take this sine graph and rewrite the equation a little bit. So we got our sine. We're going to put a parentheses in with our x, and we're going to put a plus or minus sign at this end. So we just got to kind of stick our 3 in and our pi in an appropriate place. So they're saying we're going up 3. Where should I stick that 3? Up 3, out on the end. Yeah, that would not go in the parentheses. Positive 3. And we're going right pi. So we're going to put a plus pi or a minus pi?
Minus.
Good. Finally learning that. So a minus actually means right. And that's your answer. That easy.
That's all you have to do.
That is all you gotta do for number 6. 2 more. No, because I believe Friday is an AP history exam, so everyone will be gone. All right, number 7. I'll give you a ticket for A and B. Let's go with Ian.
A equals 3, B equals 4 pi.
Good. 3 and 4 pi. Hey, let me just pause the video and let you try this whole entire problem by yourself. I don't see anything harder about this tangent problem than the tangent problem we did for number 3. This is a good opportunity for you to try it by yourself. Turn the video on. All right, hello people on the video. I'm making the kids do this one by themselves, but I got my period to be 1/4 because it was pi over 4 pi. Cut that number in half to get my asymptote, and then cut that number in half to get my halfway point. And keep in mind your halfway point is always your 1/16, but then comma A. So that's where I utilize that 3. Okay, questions? Last problem. I'm going to give out a ticket for a helper that can give me A and B. Let's go with Alyssa. Good. 2 and 1. So go ahead and write out your amplitude and period all by yourself and look up when you're ready to check. I do not have appropriate hash marks on this one at all, so we're going to have to make them. I'll pause that real quick though.
Hey, can we write like sine?
Hey everyone, before I start labeling things, I do want to look ahead a little bit with my shifts, because I need to know how far up or how far down or how far right or how far left we're going to be going. Maybe for one ticket, somebody can tell me. Sam?
Your horizontal shift is pi over 2.
And now is that left or right? Because that's essential for me to know.
That's gonna go left.
Pi over 2 will be left, so make sure we have enough space over here, which we do. That's good.
The plus 1 that you were looking at.
It's going to go up.
Yeah.
1 up. So that kind of just tells me, I know my amplitudes too, but I also know I'm going to have to go another one up after that, so I need at least 3 hash marks up here. So I just kind of did that to kind of help me figure out how many hash marks to make. We are going to have a preliminary graph and a final answer because we have that shift. Let's go out 4 hash marks and make our period. Cut in half, triple it. Hopefully you get really good at that by now. We got a lot of practice today. All right, it's a sine graph. So we start at 0, end at 0, climb our mountain, which our mountain is too high because of the amplitude. Go down in our valley, and we make this in real light pencil. This is the graph before any shifting has occurred. This is the hardest shift we've had all day. There's 2 types of shifting. So I guess my first question for you is, I think we all know how to shift up 1, that's easy. But how in the world do you shift pi over 2 to the left? How many hash marks is that?
1.
Yeah, 1 hash mark. So I like to write myself a little note. I usually do this when I do mine. 1 hash left, and then 1 hash up. So every single pink dot, and I'll go 1 pink dot at a time. 1 hash left, 1 hash up. That's where he would live now. 1 hash left, 1 hash up. That's where he would live now. 1 left, 1 up. That's where he lives. 1 left, 1 up. He lives. 1 left, 1 up. That's where he lives. And then you want to highlight this answer because that's his eyeball. Hey, thanks for watching the video, everybody at home. Hope you can come to a study party, and if you cannot come, there's study party problems in Polaris with the answer key.